veterans and active duty members of the military and their families also that live in our state, other issues also affect them. So I want to talk a little bit about education and healthcare and some of those other issues, but I do want to focus on a couple things. One is we are working very closely with Colorado Springs, El Paso County, Schriever with Peterson, to hopefully secure the Space Command for Colorado, which would be a great addition to our military community. But with benefits beyond our military community, we have a very strong aerospace sector in Colorado. Part of the reason that we have so many jobs in aerospace is we have a lot of cross-fertilization across academic side, military side, and civilian aerospace side. So if we can succeed in our efforts to gain the Space Command here in Colorado Springs, I should mention we also are supportive of, there's another base in Colorado, Buckley, which is also in the mix. But anywhere in Colorado would be a big win, and certainly Colorado Springs has a very strong proposal for that, and we are doing everything we can, working with our federal delegation to secure that, including trying to align some of the roads and infrastructure to the needs of the military here. We put in for some build grants to further develop some of the roads and access points to our bases in support of our military families. The other item I want to mention, and I shared with your city council earlier, is we're very excited to be working to see, we're one of 2 finalist cities to attract a museum, the National Museum for Medal of Honor recipients to Colorado. Denver is the site that they needed, the proximity to the major airport and all that, but the point is this is of statewide interest. Colorado Springs, Pueblo. What this means, of course, is this will give, of course, our Colorado Springs residents across our state, of course, Pueblo, City of Heroes, most living Medal of Honor recipients of any city their size, most recipients per capita. This also really is a great economic benefit as well as a cultural benefit to our state, because it'll help put Colorado on the map for military tourism, military enthusiasts, those engaged in military history, and Colorado Springs is very much a part of that. Of course, with the upgrades being made to the Visitor Center, the Air Force Academy that will be coming online, as well as other elements of our past, current, and future military heritage in our state. If we can secure the National Museum for Medal of Honor recipients, which is estimated to have 500,000 visitors per year, it'll really be that anchor that we need to, of course, honor our veterans and their families, but also to make sure that we can provide that full experience in Colorado for families that are seeking to celebrate our military history in our great state. Yesterday was Purple. We had a day to honor the recipients of the Purple Heart Medal. We did a ceremony outside of our state capitol in Denver, and I was joined by a number of Purple Heart recipients, and we hoisted a special Purple Heart flag over the state capitol in acknowledgement of our wounded veterans and those who were lost. We're also engaged in a major process around behavioral health, and what that means is it encompasses everything around mental health, substance abuse, which is often an offshoot of lack of behavioral health services as people seek to self-medicate. And in that process, we're making sure that the voices of veterans are heard. Often veterans who experience PTSD, who have a difficult time readjusting, we need to make sure that we have a behavioral health system that serves them and meets the unique needs of veterans and makes a significant contribution to, of course, making sure that when people have served our country with dignity, they're able to return and have a place to thrive in our society. And that's very much at the core of the work that the Colorado Springs Gazette and others have reported on that we're doing around reinventing our behavioral health system to better align with successful outcomes. And what we have is kind of a system that's evolved over time, but it doesn't focus enough on prevention and early treatment. And too many people, including too many veterans, fall into a crisis, far more tragic outcomes for them, far more costly for all of us. So we feel that by deploying our resources more effectively, more efficiently, for detection and prevention, we can have a major impact on making our state not only more hospitable for veterans, but also reduce the crime rate, reduce the homelessness rate, and a number of other issues that we struggle with every day. And making sure that veterans and veterans issues are really very much at the forefront of our work as we seek to reinvent behavioral health is absolutely critical. I've had the opportunity here in Colorado Springs to visit Mount Carmel twice, really doing great work with veterans and families on a variety of fronts, including education and training, where we're also doing the most that we can to make sure that our returning veterans have the skills and have the alignment of skills from whatever the military specialty was, and a successful track to port those over to private sector and civilian jobs. And I know it can be frustrating for returning veterans who've developed a great skill to all of a sudden have to be sort of at the same class or at the same level as maybe a kid just out of high school who doesn't have any of that real world experience. Well, we value that military experience. That means a lot. It doesn't mean it's going to be 100% aligned with what that certificate or requirement might be, but it might be 50% aligned or 70% aligned. And so that we need to do that work around how do we make sure that, yes, we're providing that veteran that additional 30% or 50%, but we're not sort of disrespecting them by saying you have to learn the exact same thing that you've already been doing at a very high professional level for 5 years or 10 years in the military. And that's a goal of ours on the occupational licensing reform front, working with our community colleges, working for alternative forms of credit towards certificate and degrees, and we're looking forward to continue to make progress with the Colorado Commission on Higher Education, as well as the Department of Regulatory Affairs on those issues. We also know that so many broader issues impact our veterans and military families here in Colorado. We're very excited that starting in the next week and 2 weeks, every child in Colorado will be able to go to free full-day kindergarten across our entire state. And that includes and while it was already free in District 11, there's two main districts in El Paso County where families had to pay $270 a month. It will now be free in those districts. And in District 11, it'll free up the resources. In District 11, ahead of their time, was using the fund full-day kindergarten. They were taking funds from other areas to do that. Now that the state is funding that frees up over $5 million for District 11 to increase teacher pay, reduce class size, fund preschool programs, and other priorities of the district. So we're excited to celebrate that as well. By funding full-day kindergarten, it also freed up over 5,000 preschool slots in our state, and we're committed to continuing our work to expand the opportunity for preschool for families. Not only are preschool and kindergarten incredibly important educationally, and the data shows that if we truly care about the persistent achievement gaps based on income and race and geography, giving every child a strong start is the best thing that we can do to make sure the kids are prepared for success. Not only with Representative Exon's help have we started the full-day kindergarten, not only does that benefit the kids, but think about how it also benefits families in terms of freeing up a second parent to return to work if they choose, what it means for families in districts where families had to pay $200, $300, $400 a month for kindergarten. That's money that can now re-enter the local economy that the families can use for summer camp or for college savings or to build a new addition on their home or just to help pay for rent. I mean, whatever it is, that having that burden removed from having to pay for kindergarten and for some preschool is a very big deal. And you know, kindergarten is every bit as important as every other grade level. And finally, the state has acknowledged that, and we will be funding kindergarten going forward just as we do first grade and third grade and fifth grade and eighth grade. And that's very important for our state. Many states were already ahead of us. We are catching up. We want to be one of the best places in the country to raise a family. And of course, education across the continuum from early childhood all the way through higher education is a critical part of that. On the higher education front, for the first time in recent history, our legislature and us worked very hard to freeze college tuitions across the state at our public universities. So we know that's only a first step, but isn't it nice that they're not going up for a change? So freezing those tuitions is a big step. And of course, we're looking at those cost drivers in higher ed to try to reduce the cost of acquiring a college degree. I'm going to mention two areas of those. One area we're looking at is we've expanded the opportunity around dual and concurrent enrollment programs. And if you have a kid or grandkid in school, hopefully they've encountered these kinds of programs. We have many schools across our state, including in D11, where students can get transferable and aligned college credit through a duly accredited community college course while they're in high school. We even have the opportunity to graduate high school with an associate's degree in our state and here in Colorado Springs as well. I visited the new Cherry Creek Career Technical Center. They're just opening it's the first new career and technical center in our state, really in decades. That was kind of what we used to call many years ago voc tech or vocational. This is the new evolution of that, but we have many large ones that still exist. Some have been consolidated with community colleges, but what Cherry Creek did is really create what this looks like for the next generation. So they have pathways, for instance, including pathways for new educators, for people who want to be teachers, where while they're in high school, they can A, earn money as paraprofessionals in the classroom, working in elementary school classrooms, B, get transferable dual and concurrent enrollment credits so that when they graduate high school, they only need 2 or 3 more years till they're a fully accredited teacher with a 4-year degree and able to earn a professional salary as a teacher. They also have it around aviation, around behavioral health. So bringing these opportunities to high schoolers, not every career requires a 4-year degree, but almost every career requires more than just a high school diploma. So it's how do we make sure that, yes, you're graduating high school with a diploma, but how is it a diploma plus a certificate in a skill, an apprenticeship, an associate's degree, and have something that meaningfully allows you to support yourself. And of course, if you choose to, might make your time at a 4-year institution of higher education 3 years or 2 years instead of 4, saving you the time and the money. The other big area that affects all of us is healthcare. Now, of course, if you get into the VA or TRICARE, you don't worry about it as much every day. Of course, when I was in Congress, I was a big champion of improving services at the VA. There, of course, have been issues, including some at the Fort Collins VA with long wait times and information, and we had to have an investigation because they've been doctoring their wait times. We continue to work with our federal delegations, Senator Bennett, Senator Gardner, our members of Congress, to improve the quality of services across our VA system, of course, for people who've had a career in the military and TRICARE. But what about people who've been in the military 5 years, 10 years, 3 years, don't have the disability rating? They're kind of in the same boat as everybody else in our country, right? What do I do for my health care? How can I afford my health care? Do I get it from my employer? What if I want to be self-employed? What if I want to work part-time? What if I'm taking a few years out of the workforce? And I'm proud to say we've made great progress working with Representative Exum and Senator Lee. The most immediate progress that you will see in the individual market is because of the reinsurance policy, bipartisan reinsurance policy that we passed. Rates in Colorado Springs will be coming down 15% in the individual market next year. And you're going to see that in the November 1st open enrollment period. So you will actually see those rates average of 15%. It's even more in Pueblo because Pueblo was higher, so they come down more. 26% reduction in Pueblo. So for people who worry about how they're going to afford their insurance, if you don't have employer-based, if you don't have federal, this is that market. And bringing down those rates for the first time since the exchange was created will make a major impact on who can afford coverage in our state. And it is just a first step. Yes, reinsurance, we're also pursuing, and our legislature passed a bill that allows us to establish a public option here in Colorado to give people more choices for where they get their insurance coverage. And we're also building upon a model that's been successfully implemented by Summit County, Colorado, which has some of the highest insurance rates in the entire country. We call it the alliance model, where effectively they use the power of customers across different insurers to leverage that to negotiate better rates with providers. We are looking at expanding that statewide. In Summit County, they're going to see the benefits of it, again, right away next year, 2020. But we are working with La Plata County, Eagle County, Pitkin County, and statewide, including to see if we could leverage the state employee base of 30,000 and others to sort of seed the statewide alliance model to produce additional savings through negotiated rates with providers. We also were able to get groundbreaking legislation passed to allow for importation of prescription drugs from Canada. It's just one of those common sense issues. I mean, Coloradans and Americans are sick and tired of being ripped off on prescription drug costs. It's absolutely outrageous that we're paying 5 to 8 times as much for the exact same prescription drug that's available in Canada or in Europe, often made at the same facility in essentially the same package, and yet we're paying 5 to 10 times more. We are one of 3 states to do this. Florida, Colorado, and Vermont are the 3 states that are moving forward to seek the federal waiver that we need to be able to do this on a larger level and represent savings. And saving money on prescription drugs is about more than just prescription drugs. I mean, for those who pay for prescription drugs and need them, you see that every week. But I want to make sure that you know that it's also about health insurance costs. Because 20%, about 20%, of our costs in healthcare are prescription drugs. So if we can reduce that by 20 or 30%, that means everybody will pay less in insurance, because even if you're not on a prescription drug, you are indirectly paying for those high costs in your insurance premiums. So if we can make progress on that, employer base will come down, individual market will come down, and Colorado wants to be in the forefront of that. We're working with Secretary Azar and the administration to try to find a way to pilot this, and we're looking forward to hopefully being able to be one of the very first states that would get a waiver that would allow us to do that in a meaningful way. So those are really some of the ideas that we and your legislature